I've been waiting 5 years to do this. And I had to fake a meeting for the chairman so I could do it. Welcome. I want to call to order the meeting of the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. Ms. Carter, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bone?
Here.
Mr. Cope?
Here.
Mr. Fry?
Here.
Mr. Hargett?
Here.
Ms. Hayes? Here. Mr. Isaacs? Mr. Jarvis?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Kinsey?
Here.
Mr. Lillard?
Here.
Dr. Nixon?
Here.
Mayor Wharton? Mr. White? Mr. Wilson?
Present.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. One, let me welcome all of you and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. Respectful of your time and make sure we get you out of here on time, which is the best job a chairman can do. I'd also like to welcome a member of the UT Board of Trustees. Farrell, would you stand, please? Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. You have the agenda before you. I would like to call for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. You have the minutes before you of the July 26, 2012 meeting. I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
In the chairman's report, I will be brief. We had a very productive work session this morning. A great deal of information was exchanged and presented to us. The staff did a brilliant job of laying out all of the information. We talked about everything from the state appropriation recommendations and capital projects recommendations to teacher education report card, and much of that will be presented to you later today. I would like to also bring to your attention, on December 5th, the Tennessee Higher Education Commission will be in Memphis and will be hosting the final of the 3 regional summits for employers on narrowing the skills gap. Both mayors will be present, and also the participants, University of Memphis, Southwest Tennessee Community College, as well as Memphis business leaders. This will be the 3rd of the regional summits you've had also in East and Middle Tennessee, and it focused a great deal on skills that we can provide employers as it relates to closing the gap. So that will be in Memphis, and we would like to have as many of you present as we can. Last but certainly not least, there is a great deal of tremendous work going on in higher education. The work that University of Tennessee, the work that the Board of Regents has done as it relates to outcome and student success, but also the fact that our governor has really made put a great deal of emphasis on strengthening the role of higher education. And that debate has really been fruitful. And just want to thank everyone who's participated in that, because it gives us hope that we will be able to achieve the goals of the master plan. So that is my report. And Mr. Executive Director, now we will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission and guests. Welcome. I too would like to recognize Squirrel Driver as our special guest, as a member of the UT Board of Trustees. I would just like to make a few staff announcements and then introduce to you Mr. Mark Schneider, who will give a brief presentation. I am pleased to announce, probably put this in the update, but that Betty Dandridge Johnson has agreed to be our new Chief Academic Officer. Betty, if you'd stand up, I'd like to recognize you. I was going to say Betty is one of those people who, but Betty is unique. One of those people who has been served in a number of capacities over the course of her career in many different types of institutions, different offices over those years. She probably has the claim to fame. This is her 3rd tour of duty at THEC. She started as a graduate assistant at the beginning of her career, and then was here on the fiscal staff, perhaps midway through, and now has been here since 2002 in the academic area. In those other assignments were on the Board of Regents staff, where she worked with a number of us, at MTSU with another number of us, and as well as some time at Meharry. So we value Betty very much as a colleague, and know that she will excel as our Chief Academic Officer. So thank you, Betty. Some other new staff appointments since the commission met last, and let me just highlight a few. All are important, but Lindsay Vaughn is with us. Lindsay is working with Stephanie in the Post-Secondary Authorization Division. She is an attorney, and she came to us from the Tennessee Department of Health. Glad you're here. Kate Derrick. Kate is here. Great. Kate is working with us in the P16 in the Gear Up office, and she is our communications director there, and she is a product of the master's program in higher ed administration at Vanderbilt. LaTanya Todd just joined us. This is your third day?
Yes, sir.
She too is an attorney and will be working with us in post-secondary education, and she was most recently a staff attorney for the U.S. Department of Labor. So there are others, graduate assistants, that we're very glad you're with us, as well as interns. Mr. Chairman, that's basically our new staff. Now, I'd like to make an introduction of Mark Schneider. Back here. Okay. If you would work your way to the podium. A little bit of a backstory on this context, and as you know, and as the chair acknowledged, Complete College Tennessee really has been a framework for us, for this organization, for all of higher education in Tennessee for the last number of years, but 3 years more specifically. And in that, we have a lot of alignment that has occurred, making sure that K-12 reforms coming out of Race to the Top translate into and are carried forward in higher education, mostly through Complete College Tennessee Act. Since then, we've had initiatives like the Common Core Standards that have come forward in K-12, and we're picking that up on the higher education part as far as PARC and that career and college readiness, and all the financial aid programs that we mentioned earlier today. So, Mark is going to talk to us about a new initiative, College Measures is the name of it, but and I don't want to preempt him at all, but it's about how the public can benefit in a more significant way from all the information that is available to us. So Mark is a longtime colleague. He's a visiting scholar at the American Enterprise Institute and vice president of the American Institute's research in Washington, D.C. And his career before that was in the classroom, political science professor at SUNY Stony Point, and I guess where we met was his tour of duty in Washington with the National Center for Education Statistics. So he has a much longer resume than that. I would like to present to you Mark Schneider.
So it's my pleasure to be here. When Rich asked me to come, I was really privileged. Then he told me just a minute ago that he invited me so he wouldn't have to talk for 10 minutes. So I feel like Tom Sawyer and whitewashing the fence. You know, I got sucked into doing a job for him. But it actually is my pleasure to be here. And I want to talk about this project, the Economic Success Metrics project. And first off, I do want to thank everybody in the state and THEC for collaborating on this project. Very important project. And actually, you probably all know that in the world of higher education, Tennessee is a really important state. So the partnership with Tennessee for me is a unique privilege, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to work with Rich and David Wright and others. So basically, what we've done is we launched a project it's called Economic Success Measures, Metrics. Hold on, sorry. Okay, I've got to find where's the button? Okay, so we have numlock. Okay, there we go. And basically, there's two parts to the project. One is a web-based tool. This is just a screenshot of the opening pages. You can find more at www.collegemeasures.org/ESM, and ESM is Economic Success Measures. This is the opening page for Tennessee. I'll talk about some of the other states that we're working with. And the object in this is to try to help students, policymakers, university folk understand what the economic success of their graduates are, what happens in the labor market after they get their degrees. So the premise of the exercise of this project is that measuring student success while in college is absolutely important, and this is what the completion agenda has been all about, measuring better the progress of students and the completion of students and increasing those rates. My argument is that's important, that's fundamentally important, but not enough, and that we have to know what happens to students after they graduate. We know that higher education has many, many payoffs in all kinds of domains, but labor market success is fundamental to measuring the success of our colleges and our universities. 90% of students say that a good career and high wages is the thing that's most important to them in their college enrollment, in their college careers. And I bet if we asked the parents of traditional age students, it'd be 100% of them, right? You want to make sure that your kids go to college and that they get launched into good careers and good jobs. And again, it's not the only thing that matters in a higher education, but it is one of the fundamental things that we have to be very cognizant of. And as we continue to improve our measurements of student success in college, we also have to start worrying about how we're doing with our students afterwards. The Economic Success Metrics Project is a multi-state effort. If you go on our website, we have Arkansas, Tennessee, and Virginia in that order. They were released. In January, Texas and Colorado will be released. And in February, Nevada, and we're working with other states to bring them into into state partnerships. On September 18th in 2012, we released this report called The Earning Power of Graduates from Tennessee's Colleges and Universities. And the unique part of this project is that it drives the wage data down to the program level. Right, so we know how students are doing in political science departments across the state. We know how master's degrees stack up against bachelor's degrees versus certificates. So we could look at specific program level performance of graduates, and this is actually fundamentally important, because one of the things that we discover is that there's really wide variation across both major fields of studies and across graduates from different institutions, and the differences in graduates in the same university could be thousands of dollars difference in terms of program, in terms of wage outcomes. And actually, if you look across institutions, you can find large differences between what students with the same degree from different campuses are earning. One of the other things that we learned is that some degrees and some types of degrees are worth what, in terms of the market value, are more highly paid than others. And the one thing that's consistently found in Tennessee and the other states that we worked in is that right now there's an incredible high bonus for technically oriented degrees, and especially technically oriented degrees at the associate's level. And this is very important information, because lots of students don't want to do a four-year degree or can't do a four-year degree. Community colleges are extremely important to the higher education system in the United States. The associate's degree is highly valued, and technical associate's degrees in the United States, in every state we've looked at, are incredibly highly valued. This is an important message, and I think, I have a PhD, and I always thought that a bachelor's degree and a PhD and a master's and all that kind of stuff was fundamentally the thing that mattered the most. And actually, looking at these data consistently have made me believe that that was really a mistake on my part and others of my colleagues. And I think that we have to honor the associate's degree much more than we do, and the technical associate's degree are valuable, and we really have to recognize the value of them. I'm going to just give you some highlights from the bachelor's level, even though I just told you how important the associate's level was. I'm going to show you some of the data from the bachelor's level, because it's still the most common degree granted in the United States. So these are the average wages of graduates from degree programs with the highest earnings. And these are the dozen programs with the highest earnings in the state. And remember, this is a program within a university, and this is the average first-year earnings of these graduates. There's also the number of graduates and the percent of graduates that we find. And you can see that of the dozen with the highest earnings, 3 are in health professions, 8 are in engineering, and 1 is in computer science. Technical degrees end up producing the highest paid workers. And I'm going to come back to, there's a caveat to that, and I'll come back to that in a second. Here are the bachelor's degrees with the lowest earnings, and if you look at them, most of them are in the humanities and the liberal arts. And I've gotten accused of hating the liberal arts because these are the data. I didn't make these up, but you know, and people say you hate the liberal arts. I don't hate the liberal arts. I want students to know what the choices mean, right? And the choices may mean that you're not going to make a lot of money. And if that's what you choose to do, that's okay. But you should know that this is a choice, and then you shouldn't borrow $100,000 to make $20,000. By the way, that part. I mean, that is the most important message that I have. So that's basically since I only have 10 minutes and I talk fast, I'm going to keep talking fast. So that's the basic message, right? And these are important things. The Tennessee report got picked up by the national media. We're having a National Press Club event that Rich is coming to talk to. This is a really important movement to get these data into the public domain. But what are the things that we need to do next? Because this is just the first step in a long journey. It's just the first step in a journey that I hope we can partner on and go down together, because it really is important to all our students to understand what the consequences of their choices are, and also, again, fundamental, you know, you have to be careful about what you borrow. Don't, you know, if you're going to borrow $50,000, make $20,000, you're not going to be happy. If you borrow $20,000 to make $50,000, that's a good deal. Okay, so what do we need to know? Well, the first thing that we have to do, and I'm working with David on some of these, David Wright already, we have to figure out, we have to push the time horizon out. So right now, and this was hard enough to do, to get the first year earnings done, right? And people have talked about this for a long time, and Tennessee stepped up and did it, right? And all credit to them, to you, right? This is like an important first step, but it's not the end of it. We have to go and look at what happens to students 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out. And we have to do this for a lot of reasons. So the first reason is that right now, on average, in every state we looked at, the average graduate with an associate's degree earns more than the average graduate with a bachelor's degree, right? And that's not a mistake. What do they say, racetracks? Check that, right? I mean, that's a real number, right? In 3 states, in all 3 states that we have the data, on average, associate degree holders have average first year earnings higher than bachelor's degrees. But we know from national data that the rate at which bachelor degree students increase their salaries is steeper than associate degrees. So we need to know 5 years out, 10 years out, what's happened to the bachelor's degrees compared to the associate's degrees. We have these data. We need to use them. We need to put these on this public website. We need to analyze them. The second part why this is important is because of that liberal arts issue. Many people argue that the skills that liberal arts students have are skills that employers want. It just takes them a while for the employer to recognize that. Is that true or not? I really and truly don't know, but we really do need the answer to that. And not only do we need the answer to that overall, we need the answer to that for each college, each program, to know in the long run what the payoff is for a degree from the many programs, the many campuses that you all support. This is a public investment of dollars, and I think everybody needs to know what the return, what the outcome is. So we need a longer time horizon. We're working on that. The other thing that we need to do is we need to say to students, okay, this is the wages that you might make, but there's only 2 jobs in this field in the next 10 years, right? So it doesn't make it's not good to say, well, I'm going to become, oh, by the way, an attorney, right? So they get paid a lot of money, but there's not the number of jobs, the demand for attorneys is falling like crazy. So you might want to think about investments in I see an attorney over there smiling. You might think so we have an obligation to tell people not only what their wages are, but are they going to find jobs? And we're working, I had a meeting with the Department of Labor, the Tennessee Department of Labor this morning, to try to get their data on demand for workers in different program areas. And we hope to be able to push this forward and produce a table that looks like this, right? So this is an example of the kind of, so the attorney's there, this is an example of the kind of chart that we might be able to produce for for economic development regions. There are 9 of them in the state, and we're thinking of developing this and trying to get this in the hands of particular community colleges, right? So community colleges serve local employment markets. They're very career-oriented. They do a good job in that. We have to help them understand where the demand for their workers are going to be, based on the best data from the Department of Labor, and this combines, for example, both the information about the demand and the likely wages. So then we have to figure out. I mean, this is just a mock-up. This is, this came actually of real data, but it's just a mock-up of the kinds of things that we need to do. But we need to develop this kind of tool and then work with community colleges and the regional campuses to get this into the hands of students, so when they make decisions about careers, they make the right decisions. You can't, like an 18-year-old kid is going to make, his or her own decision, but we have to help inform them and help them understand what the consequences of those decisions are. Another thing that I hope to be working with you all on is a return on investment calculator. So this, for example, are data. These are very rough estimates, so I don't think these were printed in your report, thank God, because they're probably going to change by the time we're done. But what we're working on is what's the return to the student in their investment of time and money in a degree. This is at the campus level, but we could actually do this with the data we have at the program level. And you can see this is not unusual to see this kind of variation in the return on the investment. So again, this is only income. And there are other things that matter, but the fact of the matter is that we could measure the return on the investment for students. How much money did you spend on getting that degree? How much time did you spend on getting that degree? What's your likely outcome in terms of money? What's the return on the investment? To me, this is important both to the student and to THEC and to policymakers. And we could do this at the program level now. And that to me is a really important choice. This is a map of the return on investment nationwide. Again, this is all preliminary data. Tennessee actually is above average for students in terms of the return on the investment. This is only community colleges. So you actually have again, these are preliminary data. Tennessee actually has a pretty good record on this. But again, this is just at the 30,000-foot level, but we need to drive this down, and we will drive this down to the program level so that we know what the return on the investment to the student is for the investment of time and money in getting a particular degree. We could also do this, the return on the investment to the taxpayer, because these are all taxpayer-supported institutions, and there's money going in from the taxpayer. We could do the ROI for the taxpayer. Finally, the next challenge, which is actually a very large challenge, is how to make the data more usable, right? And that is that we're working hard to make these understandable in an easy to use, user-friendly environment. But we have to make these data even more useful. So what are the kinds of things that we're thinking about? So I have a proposal into the Gates Foundation to try to figure out how to integrate this information about the return on investment, about wage data, into your high school literacy curriculum. So this is like, put this in the hands of people, of students or teachers, so that they could help students make the right kinds of choices or ask the right kinds of questions about these data. And, so I live in a world where I say ROI, everybody says, yeah, ROI, it's like, blah, 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 ROI. But, you have to explain to a student, what does ROI mean, right? Rah, no. Or, what is the difference between sticker price and net price? I know, right? Does a student understand that? In fact, about half the students in the country never get past sticker price. So we have to figure out how to get this into the hands of the financial literacy program. We're working on that. I hope to make progress on that. We have to find intermediaries to help students understand this. So in Texas, we're going to work with the NCAC, the National Collegiate Advisor Corps, which is Teach for America for guidance counselors. We're going to work with them to try to figure out how to translate this information into usable information. So when a guidance counselor, a college-oriented guidance counselor, because most guidance counselors are not college-oriented, has a set of tools to help students understand the consequences of their choices. I talked to Rich just a while ago about some of the groups that you have in Tennessee that we could probably port this over to. And finally, as we go forward, everything that we're doing needs to be to support your mission, your goals, your desires. So as we open up all these new areas of data, we need to figure out how to make sure that they're congruent with your interests and your needs, how the data are rock solid, put in the public domain in a way that people and students could students are people, I just want to be careful about that, that people understand and can use. And I think maybe some kind of data advisory committee for these kinds of data, because Tennessee is on the leading edge of this, and we need to get this right. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mark. Any questions or comments to Mark? Well, I'll just say, obviously, we very much appreciate Mark and his work and our partnership with him. You know, the governor has been very consistent about the need for higher education. We work more directly with the workforce, and this is very central to that. And yes, while you're talking about the groups, Troy Grant and the T16 group that Wendy Tabor, our alum, and her group with Student Access and Success need to be involved in this, and Jessica Gibson and her work with the adult students as well. So we'll be working with you. Mr. Chair, that completes my report.
Dr. Rhoda, I did not see you make a report. We will overlook that for the sake of brevity. Now we will have the system report. Chancellor Mooney, we'll start with you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I'll be brief, but a few things I wanted to just share with you, a little bit unrelated items, but I think things will be of interest, and particularly as it relates to the presentation we just heard. I think with the governor's emphasis on and discussion over the last several months, and what I expect to continue now for the next several months, about how we align higher education and the economy and the real workforce and prepare students who are prepared for the kinds of things that employers need. Clearly, more information is better. The better information that families have, that students have about what the market looks like and what it's likely to be like when they enter that market, the better choices they will make, the better choices we'll be able to make. We can influence to some extent at higher education institutions, can influence students' choices, but many times students have come to us intending to get a degree, a psychology or philosophy degree. I mean, the good news about philosophy at Austin Peay is that there were only like 12 or 14, I think, graduates in that program. So at least, there's not hundreds of people getting their philosophy degrees at Austin Peay. But in order for the decisions to be made, it takes, I say good news, it's just in terms of earnings capacity. We might have never mind. First rule, stop digging, is that right? But at any rate, the better information that's available, the better choices it can make, and the more influence we can have then as institutions in helping guide students into curriculum and into programs that are likely to be beneficial. And good news is we get help with that, and in fact, back on September 19th, we were awarded as a system a little bit over $17 million from the U.S. Department of Labor through their Trade Adjustment Assistance Community College and Career Training Initiative. And this was really a big deal for us. The $12.6 million of that grant came to us for a program that it's called Prescription Tennessee, or RX Tennessee. It's being managed by Roane State, but actually includes participation by all 13 community colleges and each of our technology centers, our 27 technology centers, to really help in health-related fields. It's primarily healthcare training-related activities that will take place, but it will enable us to help support students in making better career choices, supporting student success, placement, and it will be tailored by region to the healthcare needs and the job demands in those regions. And healthcare is one of those fields where we really believe it's a fairly permanent area within which employment opportunities are going to be there for as far out as we can see. Irrespective of what happens with the health care reform activities on a national level, we know that there will be high demand for health care related training going forward. We were also able to get $3 million of that $17 million for Chattanooga for advanced manufacturing job training activities, as well as $1.5 million to Pellissippi and the TTC Murfreesboro, also designed to improve advanced manufacturing training. Hopefully the governor's budget will include some economic development activities that will involve us and will involve the TTC of Murfreesboro. We hope that does come true. Also, we just got awarded, or just found out yesterday, that Tennessee State had been awarded $2.45 million from USDA, the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, a food safety grant, really to try to help control salmonella and some other foodborne contamination. This was part of a national program of about $15 million worth of grants that were given to 17 institutions. So to get nearly $2.5 million out of that for one institution at Tennessee State is something that we're quite proud of. So those are good things happening that really, I think, position us to be able to help our students be able to prepare for careers that will be more beneficial to them and to the state. I'd also like to just mention to you a couple of things. One of the big events in the last couple of weeks was the investiture of Dr. Phil Oldham as president of Tennessee Tech. I already felt pretty invested in Dr. Oldham, but I'm even more so now. So it was a very nice ceremony, and I think he was introduced to y'all last time, I guess, at his first meeting, but he's doing a great job at Tennessee Tech, and you could tell from the kind of the spirit of the campus and the folks who participated in that he's doing a great job. We also, though, have new president at Roane State now, Dr. Chris Whaley, who had been vice president for academic affairs at Roane State, was selected as president and took over on the first of the month, I think it was November 1st, for Dr. Gary Goff, who is retired and is probably now sitting on a porch somewhere in Tampa or somewhere close to that. But Chris will do a great job. I think many of you know him, and I think you'll find him to be a great leader for Roane State. And we have two new directors at our technology centers. Tony Creasy at Pulaski was selected to lead that technology center, and Arita Summers is now the director of the Crump Technology Center. Arita was the assistant director at the Nashville Technology Center. So there's personnel changes. Two other things I'll mention. One is enrollment trends. Our enrollment was down. I think probably UT's enrollment, you may talk about this, Katie, I don't know, but was fairly flat overall as a system. Ours was down. It was down in community colleges a bit more than universities, and that's something to be paying attention to. However, when you look back across the last 30 years or so at the business cycle, what you find is, this comes as no surprise to most of you, that enrollment, particularly community college enrollment, is countercyclical. The economy softens, more people come to community college, more people come to school. When the economy begins to recover, we see folks have opportunities to go back into the workplace and find employment. And clearly that is a historical trend that there's no reason to be that concerned that it is repeated. But when you look at those numbers, you also find that head count enrollment, or that FTE enrollment, actually went down faster than head count enrollment. Again, that may not be that uncommon, but it does suggest to you that for a variety of reasons, could be partly the economic cycle, but perhaps could be related to other reasons, students are making choices to still come to school, but not being able to enroll in as many hours. And that may have something to do with tuition cost. So as we think about tuition, I know we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes as recommendations, I believe intuitively, there's really no science behind this yet, although we're looking at it very carefully, that we have reached a point, particularly in our community college system, where tuition increases are having a measurable effect on student behavior in terms of enrollment, which is something that we're quite, I don't want to say overly concerned about, but we're conscious of, and I think as we go forward, there'll be a lot more attention paid to kind of what the likely effect is, particularly in this outcome environment where we have to continue to generate outcomes. The last thing I'll mention is our search at Tennessee State University. This was our first university search under the new law, which allows applicant information to remain confidential until an applicant is named as a finalist. And while, again, it's hard to attribute any particular outcome to a specific change, we feel very good about this search. We had a large pool, some 85 applicants, most of whom met the qualifications that we had asked for. 70 or so of those 85 applicants were clearly qualified based on our job announcement. We were able to go through a process and reach 4 finalists. The 4 finalists have all been to campus now. We had the Vice President of Academic Affairs from Auburn, a gentleman named Ainsley Carey. We had Candace Jackson, who is the Executive Vice President, Chief of Staff at the University of Akron. We had Dr. Benny Harris, who's the Vice President for Development at Lipscomb. And then we have Dr. Glenda Glover, who is the Dean of the Business School at Jackson State University, all in our pool of 4 finalists. And I believe the selection committee, our advisory committee, really felt good that we had good choices. We had a good pool from which to make choices. Hopefully, here in the next very short period, I'm looking at our Director of Communications who's going to stand up and tell me to stop talking here in a minute. But within the next very few days, we'll have an announcement about our recommendation to the board for Tennessee State University. And I think the good news is that we have a strong pool of candidates, which means there's a limited amount of damage that I can do in terms of the recommendation I make. So I can't mess it up too badly. So it's, but we hope to be moving very quickly to fill that position. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I will relinquish the rest of my time to Katie High.
Are there any questions from any members of the commission for Chancellor Morgan? Not? Dr. High.
Thank you. I have a handout that Dr. DiPietro asked me to make sure the commission members received, and there may be a few extras. And I'm going to use the podium because I have to use the internet, so I'm a little formal today. Good afternoon. I'm Katie High. I'm the Vice President for Academic Affairs and Student Success at the University of Tennessee System. And before I begin my remarks, I want to make one comment about the report that we heard, Rich, when you didn't give your report. You talked about the importance of guidance counselors getting this kind of information into their hands so that they can talk to prospective college students. But Sproul Driver, who was recognized a minute ago, is the chair of the Academic Affairs Committee of the UT Board. That's the most important committee, in case anybody wonders. And we agreed last summer that we were going to spend this entire year looking at advising and how we can enhance advising. And it seems to me that not only do high school counselors need to see these kinds of data, but the college counselors, the minute that the students make that application to a college, this is the kind of information that could be very, very helpful to them. And so I predict that we will be looking at these kinds of things as we continue our work this year. What I passed out was Dr. DiPietro's annual report, and I want you to take a look at it. We've spent a lot of time developing a system mission statement. We did not have one before, as well as a mission statement for the system administration. The University of Tennessee gets confused a lot. People hear the words University of Tennessee and they don't know whether we're talking about the Knoxville campus, the entire system. So we have tried to develop a very specific mission statement for the system as a whole and the system administration. And because of our land grant heritage, the mission statement focuses on three things, and that is education, of course, discovery or research, and the third thing is what we call connecting, and it's connecting with our constituents through outreach and advocacy. So the annual report includes facts and highlights in those three areas. We also tried to give you a snapshot of the university's finances in a way that is easy to understand, where UT gets its money, how we spend it, and then information on our investment portfolio. There is also in the back, there's a report on our enrollment trends. We've been trying to do things in 5-year increments, so we've got enrollment trends for the past 5 years. System-wide, we have seen a growth of 3% in the last 5 years. This year, both Martin and Knoxville were down just a little bit. Chattanooga was up, so we balanced out. And in 5 years, you'll see that, I don't know if this is because of Phil Oldham or despite Phil Oldham, but UTC had an enrollment increase of 18.9% in the last 5 years. When Joe came into office, he immediately got to work on the development of these mission statements, and we embarked on the development of a strategic plan. Both of those initiatives involved widespread participation among the faculty, the students, and the staff. And his mantra that he says again and again and again, this is not going to be a strategic plan that we develop and put on a shelf. He is committed to having it be a live document. So to ensure that that didn't happen, we developed a scorecard that is aligned with the 5 goals of the strategic plan. And that's what I want to show you, if I can make the machine work. Okay, the scorecard, there are 5 goals in the strategic plan. The first one is to enhance educational excellence. The second one is to expand our research capacities. The third is to foster outreach and engagement. The fourth is to make sure that everything we do is as effective as it can be and done as efficiently as we can do it. And the third one is his role and our role as being an advocate for higher education to the state. Now, those dials are live, so we have done an assessment of how well we're doing in each one of those areas. And if anybody would like to look at a particular one, I'll be more than happy to show you how it works, and if you don't have a preference, I'll show you my personal favorite.
I just want to see the needle on number 5 move as you speak.
Well, they're live snapshots, okay? In a year, they will be live, so we'll be able to see the meter move. But if you will allow me to look at to show you the first one. When you go to the first one, you'll see that suddenly there are 7 dials. And the reason there are 7 dials instead of 5 is that we decided that there'd be an overall impact. So you can see we're hovering right between yellow and green. Green is good, yellow is caution, red is danger. But we're hovering at the beginning of the green category overall. If you look at our educational excellence, we are in the green, but we're not at the top of the green. If you click on that one, you will see some additional indicators that give us various degrees of success in these areas. So if you look at enrollment, we're in the green area. If you look at diversity, you see we're in the yellow area. We want to do more in the area of diversity. If you look at degrees awarded, we're very proud of the way that we have increased the degrees that we're awarding, but we recognize there's a lot of work to go on in that area. So let's say you want to click on that one. Okay, let's say you want to do that. If you click on that one, you will see by campus over 5 years our progress in these areas. The chancellors are going to be assessed on their progress in moving these dials on their campus. We hope, again, this is These are now snapshots, and we hope that within a year we'll be able to give you live data in a lot of these metrics. If you go back to the top, it's hard to see from where I am. There it is. There's another dial at the very end, and we put in a specific category just for the Complete College Act. And again, we're in the green area. We've got some room for growth. So if you... I told you I could break it at 500 feet. But if you looked at the Complete College Act, which we're going to look at in just a minute, can you make that one open up? Yeah. Okay. You've got the measures, you've got all of the Complete College Act measures right here. And so you can look at any one of those and you can see how well we're doing. So you can see that students accumulating 48 hours. This is one of the measures where we said there was a drop almost in every institution in the state. You can see exactly what's going on our campuses at a glance. So we made this thing live last Friday. So other than Rich, who saw it Friday, I don't think anybody in here has seen it before. We don't have all the metrics filled in yet. We're having quite a difficult time trying to assess in a quantitative way how you measure outreach. We can measure outreach at the Institute of Agriculture. We can measure outreach at the Institute for Public Service. We're having a hard time trying to hem up all of the outreach that faculty do all the time, all the outreach that students do. So we're trying to enhance our capability to capture those kind of data so that we can show not only what we do in agriculture and in public service, but all the things that our faculty are expected to do that up to this point we don't measure. And we think that's very important. So that is our new toy, and we're taking it very, very seriously. And it's a way for Joe to hold us accountable, hold us accountable to ourselves, to the state, and to the Higher Education Commission, and give you at any time, it's on his website, anytime a look at how we're doing. I wanted to talk a little bit, too, about the budget hearing that we had on Tuesday. I think it was a very positive experience. We were very grateful for the support that we received last year in terms of appropriations, and we indicated at the hearing that we're very supportive of the CCTA. Some of our campuses have some work to do. We know that. But if you take a look at the scorecard, everybody knows exactly where we need to concentrate and what we need to do to get better. We also stressed that for this funding formula to work, it does have to be funded. I think we all recognize that, and the state, with its recommendations from THEC, we hope will recognize it as well. We also supported THEC's recommendations for the capital outlay and the capital maintenance areas, and we stated in the hearing that one of the things that we would like to see is flexibility in how the match for the capital outlay is constructed and developed, so that we have as much flexibility in that area as we could. Dr. DiPietro also mentioned in the budget hearing that he would like for us, THEC, TBR, and the University of Tennessee and others in the state to look at a way to incentivize institutions for graduating students in areas of high need. And STEM comes to mind. We would look forward to continuing education or continuing discussions on how we could figure out how to do that in a way that rewards institutions appropriately for progress that they make in those areas. Joe also pointed out that UT's compensation lags when you compare our compensation at the University of Tennessee with our peers. We did a major study last year. It was conducted by a company called Simpson, and it looked at all of our employees, faculty and staff, and compared them with their peers by discipline. And what we were trying to do is look at median salaries by those disciplines. And our goal was to get our employees paid at 85% of the median for their discipline. What we found out is for staff overall, employees they earn between 74 and 81% of the median salary for their colleagues across the country. For faculty, it varied by discipline, but professors earn between 80 and 90% of the median salary for their discipline compared to their national peers. Joe also mentioned that when the state mandates a salary increase, we are always very grateful for that. But he mentioned that other state agencies, when the state does mandate a salary increase, 100% of the increase is provided by the state. For the University of Tennessee, I think the same is true for the Board of Regents. We receive 60% of that. And so sometimes we're sort of struggling to figure out how to make up the difference. And that sometimes has an effect on our tuition increases. Just as the state needs to keep its best and brightest students in Tennessee after they graduate, we feel that we need to keep our best and brightest faculty employees in the state to help produce the graduates that the state needs. I'd like to echo what Rich Rhoda told the governor in the hearing. He mentioned, this always makes him nervous, he mentioned that the relationship between UT and the Board of Regents and the Higher Education Commission is as strong and positive as it's ever been, and I'd like to echo that. I've been working for UT for 31 years, and for 25 of those years I've been in the system office. And the relationship, the way that we are cooperating, collaborating, that we've been doing in the last 2 or 3 years is better and more positive than I have ever seen it. And I think that sends a very, very good, powerful message to the state. It's a pleasure to work with colleagues who are all committed to the same thing, and that is simply improving the education and training of our students for the betterment of the state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from any members of the commission for Dr. Hyde? And Dr. Hyde, thank you for those nice words about Rich. He doesn't get those often. It's kind of him. Now we will go to the action items, and the first action item would be post-secondary education authorization. Dr. Chase.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, you know a number of the commission members are on a time crunch, so we'll be very, very sensitive to that.
Thank you, Mr.
Stephanie is ever an issue on that front.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Dr. Rhoda, members of the Commission. Good afternoon. I have one action item for your consideration today, and that is the Committee on Post-Secondary Educational Institutions recommends that the 4 new institutions in Section 1A1 and the 47 new programs in Section 1A2 be granted temporary authorization and approval.
Can I have a motion to adopt the recommendation? Second? Second. Moving in second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Our next action item is the state appropriation recommendation. Dr. Duke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My items are in 3 parts. First one is item 1B, and this is the operating recommendations for the 2013-14 year. We had a lengthy background discussion this morning that led up to these recommendations. In summary form, though, Mr. Chairman, this is indeed the 3rd and final year of the phasing in of the formula and phasing out of the hold harmless. The highlights of the recommendation are $35 million for operating for the formula units, and this is the staff's estimate for what it would take to fund the outcome growth we've seen. A commensurate increase for non-formula units of $14 million, and a $33.6 million improvement to the state's need-based grant program, the TSAA award. This would increase the number of students served by about 20,000. Also, two non-recurring items, $15 million for equipment at the THEC centers and the community colleges. And finally, a $1 million higher education innovation fund for THEC and others to pursue innovations and strategies to improve educational attainment across the state. The details are in item 1B. In particular, page 6 and 7 is the actual distribution for the formula dollars I would point you to. And page 10 is the listing of the outcome improvements we've seen year over year. This is, in essence, what the state would be purchasing for the $35 million we were asking for. Mr. Chairman, that is a summary of the staff recommendation for item 1B.
Are there any questions from members of the commission? If not, I would like to call for a motion to approve the state appropriation and capital project recommendation.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Continue on.
Sure thing. Item 1C are the tuition recommendations. These are in concert with the item we just saw on the appropriation side. Summary version of this is the staff recommending up to a 6% increase in maintenance fees at universities and up to a 3% increase for two-year schools and technology centers. Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to call for a motion for approval of the student fee recommendation.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Capital project recommendation.
Yes, sir. Finally, item 1D. This is the capital outlay, capital maintenance, and disclosure item recommendations from the staff. A summary of all of that is on page 3 of item 1D. You will see 7 outlay projects totaling $289 million for consideration. There's also 69 capital maintenance projects for $104 million, as well as the requisite disclosure of capital projects that the systems are signaling intent to come forward this next fiscal year. Mr. Chairman, this is consistent with the components developed last year as part of the 5-year program, has a match component, full project planning paid for out of that match, as well as maximum flexibility to the two systems for how to meet that match and how to proceed with the projects should they be funded.
Thank you. I'd like to have a motion from the commission.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. We move to the next item, which is...
Chairman.
Yes. Yes, sir.
I know that you've been waiting 5 years for this opportunity, so you've also been waiting for 5 years to rule me out of order.
Yes, I live for that.
But if I can, I want to backtrack. I know we've already approved this item. I just want to bring this up and just be mindful of this going forward. We discussed this privately. I just want to bring it for the full board. As we talk about student fee recommendations and thinking forward, we need to make sure that as we watch the needle move a little bit on the outcome monies flowing differently to schools, that we also want to make sure that people don't take a decrease in their relative share of new monies as an opportunity or a need to increase tuitions and trying to supplant that outcomes money. So I just want to make sure we think about that. It shouldn't, the outcomes formula wasn't meant to shift it to tuition increases and keep everything the way it's supposed to be going. So I just want us to think about that in years going forward. Okay, thank you very much for indulging me.
I think that was quite appropriate. Thank you. Okay, improving teacher quality grant awards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Roeder, members of the Commission. We're going to shift gears out of the multiple hundreds of millions of dollars and just do a single $1 million consideration here. This is a pretty exciting program in that it provides an opportunity for THEC and institutions from both systems to directly engage with K-12. One of the things we recognize is that the completion pipeline really does not begin the freshman year of college. And Dr. Roeder mentioned this at the front of our budget hearing earlier this week, but the seniors in college in 2025 that will determine whether or not we meet our goals will be entering kindergarten this fall. And so it really just underlines the need for higher education to be deeply involved at every juncture at K-12 and provide support to our K-12 partners when we can. And that's what this program is about. You'll find the materials in tab 1E, and this is the Improving Teacher Quality Grant Program. This is a program that's been around in several different permutations for decades. It was originally called the Eisenhower Grant Program. It's now under the auspices of ITQ. Its focus is to ensure that K-12 teachers have the most up-to-date instruction in both content and pedagogy. And so their instructional practice in the classroom mirrors what the latest research says it should mirror. Higher education is kind of a unique partner to have involved for two reasons. One, if you think about it, every higher education institution really already has the resources they need to help K-12 and that they have content experts. They have a department full of mathematicians. They have a department full of English language arts specialists. And then they also have a College of Education. So you compare the content knowledge with the pedagogy and ensure that when K-12 teachers receive this professional development, they receive it in a well-rounded fashion. The structure of the program starts with an LEA. The federal government requires that we partner with high-need LEAs. This is defined primarily by their poverty criterion, but also by how many of their teachers are failing to meet the highly qualified threshold established by No Child Left Behind. And then in keeping with that kind of unique structure of higher education I just mentioned, they require a College of Education to be involved to deliver the pedagogy, but also a College of Arts and Sciences to be involved to ensure that the content is sound. When we began developing this RFP, one of the things we wanted to do was to ensure, since it is not an incredibly large amount of money, was that we narrowed the scope to ensure that we were affecting LEAs in the areas they needed it most. And what the Department of Education told us is we need instruction in the Common Core State Standards in mathematics, and really we need that instruction in grades 9 through 12. So we honed the RFP to ensure that it really was just focusing on grades 9, 12 mathematics. We convened a selection committee here at THEC. I'll tell you the selection committee was composed of both systems, TACUA, as well as K-12 personnel. Definitely want to thank them for their efforts. Several of the members are in the room because it was a lot of reading. We received 13 proposals. Every single proposal was in excess of 100 pages. And then they scored, reviewed, and made awards. One thing I do also want to note is that when we were scoring these proposals, those that aren't funded, and there obviously are some, we tried to ensure that we provided feedback to them and to the institution that will help them in the future and ensure that they're improving their practice when they're interacting with their LEAs. Projects are going to begin in January. They were funded for up to $120,000. And again, this is a really neat opportunity for THEC and the institutions to be out in K-12 districts directly partnering to ensure that teachers are getting quality instruction. These were the recommendations of the committee. You'll see that the awards span both TBR, UT institutions, as well as TACUA, and we're really excited about what these projects are going to do. You'll also notice there's geographical parity. So teachers from Memphis to Johnson City will be able to participate in these workshops, and we hope ultimately will improve student achievement. So staff recommendation is for approval of these awards.
Any questions for Mr. Krause before we move on? Can I have a motion
I move
to approve the
approval,
award?
Mr. Chairman. I move approval.
Second.
Second, and I would also ask that you make the legislators from those respective areas aware of those awards.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. If I could just take one moment of personal privilege. We rely heavily on our graduate assistants here at THEC, and Rebecca Talley, standing there, was absolutely indispensable to ensuring that this project selection process went smoothly, and we are very grateful.
Thank you greatly. That's all our action items for today. We have several informational items, and the first is the implementation plan update and compliance report. Mr. Burns.
Okay, before Will gets started, I need to say a few words. Many of you are aware of this, and I hate to be the one to say this, but Will is leaving the commission staff at the end of the year. That's the bad news for us. But good news for him, and I'll ask him to explain that, but Will has been on the staff. He actually predates me here at THEC, and very few others, I might say, but just over the course of his years since, Will, 95? Yes. 1995, he has represented THEC members and staff just so well before numerous audiences, legislature, administration, public, and others, and we're going to miss him significantly, deeply. I guess, Will, your whole career has been in public sector. Well, we'll go into that later. Let me jump way ahead. We're going to have an appropriate send-off for Will before he goes, which will include all commission members, staff, and the many friends he's accumulated over the years. But I just got to say that Will is, everybody knows it, just the way he has gone about the work of being the Commission's chief legislative and regulatory officer, has just been fantastic. You know, his sense of calm, his sense of humor, and compassion for the work under some very trying conditions over the years has just been outstanding. So I wish he wouldn't go, but we understand that he will go, and we certainly wish him well. So without further ado, Will?
Well, thank you for those comments. I have to say, it's not often when somebody's describing me that the term compassion comes into play. So, but I'll take it. That's the kind thing. I would like to think that I did live up to that, but I'm not so sure. But if I might, Mr. Chairman, I am sensitive to time. I do want you I want to help you succeed by getting out on time. But I do want to express my appreciation to Dr. Rhoda for allowing me to be part of the commission staff for these many years. But I want to really thank him for
It's tough.
excuse me, Penny, I hope you're satisfied. That's it. Penny didn't. Anyway, particularly grateful for the fact that back in 2006, 2007, many of you do not know that Dr. Rhoda gave me a leave of absence that allowed my wife and I to relocate to New York City for an 18-month opportunity to help establish a church plant up there. And it was an incredible opportunity, and I went totally to Dr. Rhoda to allow me to be gone for that long. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, if you can be gone for 18 months, think about it. But others in the office were gracious and kind to disperse my responsibilities, and they were very glad to see me come back, not because I'm such a great guy, but that I would then take back my responsibilities. But I am particularly grateful for that opportunity, and that is what's led to this new opportunity that we've got. My wife and I will be returning to New York on a more long-term basis to help with support a church planting network that Southern Baptists are a part of there. We're excited about the opportunity. We will miss our many friends here on staff and commission members and such. And I have been blessed to spend, with the exception of a year and a half, in public service in the Secretary of State's office and at the Board of Regents and the Administrative Office of the Courts and here. This was my longest tenure. But it's been a great opportunity, and like I said, I've been miss everyone. But if you're ever in New York City, we've got a 2-bedroom apartment, and glad to have one of the bedrooms, so and floor space. But in any event, with that, Dr. Rhoda, Mr. Chairman, I'll proceed to my report and do what it is I think I do best, and that is get us back on schedule. My report is an important one, though, this time. The report on the Title VI update and implementation plan. As you all know, Title VI is that program to ensure that there is no discrimination in programs based on a race, color, or national origin. And this report details the steps we take to monitor that, as well as show what our plan is for the coming year on Title VI compliance. And of course, that includes doing informational training sessions for subrecipients of our federal funds, as well as training commission staff. And so this kind of outlines that effort. And Mr. Chairman, if there's no questions, I'll be glad to step aside.
Any questions from the commission? Well, on behalf of the commission, you will be greatly missed.
Thank you.
When we talk about a gracious gentleman, you are a gracious gentleman, and we appreciate all your contributions.
It's kind. Thank you.
Next information item is articulation and transfer report. Mr. Ryan.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Rhoda, members of the Commission. Again, I'm pinch hitting for a member of my staff. Alex Gorbanoff is also in Las Vegas, but he's also doing a presentation on actually one aspect of the report that I'm going to be giving. This articulation transfer report was transmitted to the legislature in October. It's an annual report that we submit to the General Assembly, fulfilling a statutory responsibility to evaluate the progress of articulation and transfer policy implementation and transfer student activity. And so we are going to just have 4 sections, and I'll try to be as brief as I can. One will just be a quick update of the status of transfer, articulation, policy implementation. Secondly, a brief snapshot of transfer student activity last fall. A first-time look at students who transfer, or I guess we're going to use the word migrate because they're not truly transfers in the sense of the word that we use it, from technology centers. And then lastly, a very brief hit on a special transcript study that we did to evaluate the efficacy of the new Common General Education Core. The definition that we use in this report for a transfer student is somebody who is an undergraduate. First of all, that's an important distinction. Undergraduate at the receiving institution for the first time. Can't be somebody who's come back having enrolled there before. And they have to bring in credits. They have to transfer in credits. And we do count, for this year, in a departure from prior practice, we did count bachelor's degree recipients who might be coming back, say, to a community college or something after having earned a bachelor's degree, because they are transferring in credits. Just a little bit of an overview. Last fall, 7.5% of undergrads were new transfers, and that doesn't sound maybe like a huge amount, but when you look at it over time, the graduating class last year, over half of those students had changed schools at least once, nearly half had attended a 2-year college, and 45% had attended a Tennessee community college. So transfer is a way of life for Tennessee students, and that's why the things that are going on in transfer policy are so important. The most important thing that's been happening on the policy front is, of course, the provision of the Complete College Tennessee Act that calls for a program of fully transferable instruction between the community colleges and the public universities. I think the private colleges have also taken up this practice as well. A general ed curriculum comprising 41 hours plus 19 hours of pre-major instruction in whatever the student plans to major in once they get to the university, be it accounting, history, health professions, whatever that might be. This all has to count toward a bachelor's degree, so that if a student transfers in with an associate's degree, he or she can transfer into the public university as with full, upper division standing as a junior. We have largely accomplished this part of the directive of the Complete College Tennessee Act. 49 pathways have been completed in 28 disciplines. This was a Herculean effort involving several faculty members over much of last year, and these transfer pathways are now all displayed on a website called TennesseeTransferPathway.org. It was launched last August and has been logging about 200 visits per day. If you look at it by discipline, the top disciplines that students log on to read about are business, pre-nursing, accounting, psychology, and pre-health. And if you look at it by college or school, it's Vol State, MTSU, Chattanooga State, UT Knoxville, and Pellissippi are the top 5 schools that students click on to learn about. An additional accomplishment that I want to mention too is that the community college transcripts of students who complete a pathway now clearly state that the record involves a pathway, and it notes the area of emphasis there on the transcript. Some ongoing efforts involve reverse transfer policy. Katie High and her office are sort of coordinating all this. It's going to involve THEC, TBR, as well as UT. And the idea is there was a law passed last session that authorized these kinds of agreements to be entered into between universities and community colleges. And basically what it would say is if a student starts at a community college, transfers to a university, and then in the course of being in residence at the university completes a sufficient number and the correct kind of credits at the university, then the community college would be able to award the associate degree even though the student is no longer in residence there. There's a lot that has to be worked out on that relative to not only academic policy, finance policy, but also the underlying data system. So we're just getting started on that, but we're excited about the work. And, as I said, Katie's kind of coordinating all that. Also, Jessica Gibson, who's back there and waving, has been heading up, she and Wilson Finch have been heading up for the last year or so a prior learning assessment statewide task force whose goal it is to develop consistent statewide standards for prior learning assessment evaluation. This would be if an adult student wants to return to college, he or she may have some industry certifications, some college credits, some credit by exam. So prior learning assessment says let's evaluate all that. Let's see how many hours that we can award you credit for what you know how to do or your prior learning, and have you start with 30 credits already in the bank rather than starting back from scratch. And that's been also just a heavy lift, but one that Jessica and Wilson and the task force have handled very well. So now, just a few data points, and I will go through these quickly. As I mentioned earlier, about 7% or 7-8% of the students this last fall were transfers. Much more variation at the THEC schools and then the public schools in terms of around that 7-8%. For instance, Rhodes and Sewanee, less than 1% of their students, undergrads last fall were transfers, whereas at Aquinas and King College it was over 20%. The public institutions tend to cluster more tightly around that system average. Even as enrollments have increased over the past 5-6 years, the percentage of undergraduate enrollments that are transfer students has pretty much stayed the same over the last half a decade or so. When you look at where these students come from, most of them are from within the state. The second largest group is students who are coming back to Tennessee from out of state. They're Tennessee residents who went away, but now they're coming back. So even though they're out of staters, there's really a Tennessee focus to that. And if you look at where they're coming from, as you would probably guess, they're mostly from bordering states. And then California, because it's just such a large state, is also one of the larger suppliers of transfer students into Tennessee. The sense that I would make out of this chart, it's just a schematic of the transfer patterns last fall. They're basically commensurate proportions of students who come into the public and private systems from out of state. About 35% of their transfers are from out of state, both public and private. However, within sector is a much larger share of transfer activity for the public system, whereas from private to private is not such a big phenomenon. However, most of THEC's transfers come from the public sector, and so that's why I think they've chosen to recognize, I believe that's a correct statement, the transfer pathways, or else you have done that? Okay. Skip that one. If we look at the public system as a closed system, and just say, okay, 100% of all transfer activity within the public system, what does that look like? Well, the arrow going up there from the left side, from community college to public university, About half of all the public system transfer activity goes from community college to public university, which is sort of the traditional route. But interestingly enough, for the past 4 or 5 years, if you look at from public university to community college on the lower right, what we used to call reverse transfer from a university back to a community college, almost a quarter of the public system transfer activity is from university to community college. And so it's very important that these transfer agreements work both ways. This is just a quick look at some of the demographic characteristics of transfer students. Basically, what this chart says is that transfers and native students are an awful lot alike, except transfer students tend to have more representation by adult students than traditional students. What are the majors? Well, 46% of all the transfers from undergraduate transfers from fall 2011 majored in 3 broad areas: liberal arts, health professions, and business. And then if you add the undeclareds there, then that's the next largest area. And so with students who are undeclared, obviously, this is where the Degree Compass initiative that we've undertaken with Complete College America money becomes really important to try to get students to declare earlier so that when they do transfer, they're really on a track for one of these transfer pathways. This slide really points up one of the more problematic findings or concerning findings of the report, and that is that only 10% of public system transfers arrived at the receiving institution with an associate degree in hand. And when you look, you see that 26% of all the transfer students for whom we had credit hour information, 26% of those students had over 60 credits but no degree. That's not a phenomenon I think that we really hope to find, and so that's one of the things that I know that we're trying to work on with all this Tennessee transfer pathway activity. Sort of looking ahead to the transcript analysis that Alex worked on, from those findings, we would say for these students, if they are going to transfer without a degree, the most advantageous thing for them to do would be to go ahead and complete the Gen Ed core, and if they don't do that, at least get the math and the communications out of the way. Those are the two components of the Gen Ed core that seem to make the most difference in successful experience after transfer. These students who transfer without a degree in over 60 hours, most of them, a lot of them are undeclared, and so again, that's something we need to work on, is to get students to declare as early as possible by sort of taking advantage of some of this new advising technology that's been developed. This report, for the first time, looked at transfer activity from technology centers, and again, I think we used the word migration because these students don't really fit our definition of a transfer student that we chose for this report. You can see that students are more likely to transfer from tech centers to community colleges than public universities. The largest receiving institution among the public universities was MTSU. Community colleges, it was Roane State and Chattanooga State. The reason I say that we don't really call these students transfers in the classic sense of the word is that you can see less than 10% of them actually transfer with credits accepted at the new institution. Most of them are either first time in higher education students or returning students or readmitted students. And so we call these students, migrating students or Tennessee TTC transfers, and we use that in a different sense than we did in the rest of the report. Really not a lot of difference between TTC transfers and regular transfers. The TTC transfers tend to be a little less traditional age, more adult, less male, more female, and whites are overrepresented among the TTC transfers. Most of these students change their major once they get to the new institution from the TTC, and the change tends to be out of health professions and into trades and industrial area. So if I could summarize the main takeaways from the report that we submitted to the legislature, it would be the student transfer activity is robust and ubiquitous. Yeah, you don't see that very often in a statutory report, but and it's multidirectional. Students transfer from community colleges to universities, yes, but also universities to community colleges and within the same type of institution, out of state to in-state and all that. So our system has to serve everyone. The days of just thinking of transfer as community college to university are no longer. Our transfer students, we do have concerns. They have a longer time to degree, and there's a tendency for students who leave the state to return to Tennessee with transfer credits in hand. And the TTC transfers that we just talked about, we need further study because there's a whole lot about what they're doing that we don't understand yet. And part of that's a data issue, and part of it's just the newness of looking at that group. I will really bring this in for landing very quickly, but I did want to go over a very exciting study that Alex has been working on really for the better part of the last year with the help of 5 of the 6 TBR universities. We tried to answer the question, does the Gen Ed Common Core that TBR's had in place since 2004, I believe, and has it been that long? And more recently, UT has adopted it as well with the passage of the CCTA. Does that Common Core, a student completing it before he or she transfers, does that improve the likelihood that that student will graduate? Does it decrease their time to degree, and does it increase their college GPA? Just so you know, the Gen Ed Core, as we looked at it, it had these following components: communications, humanities, natural science, social science, history, and math. And we looked at about 18,000 students who transferred in 2006, 7, and 8, and we followed them from fall of 6 through the spring of 11 for completion. All the universities except TBR universities except Austin Peay provided us with data, and all the TBR universities sat on an advisory committee to help us make sense of the data, as well as how practices and policies and procedures work around this in the evaluation of transcripts. Alex used something called event history analysis and propensity score matching so that we were comparing transfers who had completed the Gen Ed Core and had not completed the Gen Ed Core, but in every other respect, they were very, very similar. So, to cut to the chase without getting too bogged down in the methodological details, basically a student who transferred having completed the entire common Gen Ed Core was 26% more likely to have graduate than a student who transferred without completing the core. And when you look at the Gen Ed, the components of the core, if a student didn't have the whole core finished, it was next most advantageous to finish the communications component, and after that, history, and then math, and then on down the line. This is the most complex slide, so I'll just kind of give a general overview. Basically, what it shows is for all the different cohorts that they looked at and the different components of the Gen Ed Core, you sort of see how they line up. And basically what it's showing is, the more, it's more advantageous to finish the Gen Ed Core, and then you sort of see how the different components line up. It's just a schematic. By looking at the colors and the confidence intervals around those different cohort estimates, it shows you which components have what kind of impact on Gen Ed completion. On graduation. Alex demanded that I use the word hazard for graduation because it's a very specific statistical term. Basically, it means that if you had completed the Gen Ed Core, you're at greater risk for being not in the data anymore because you graduated. So it's kind of an attrition kind of a deal. So in this case, though, hazard is good because it's hazard for graduating. And all it's saying is that if you completed the entire core compared to a student who had not completed the entire core, but prior to transferring, the completer was 2 times more likely to graduate than the student who had not. Basically, what it means is that a student who completes the core, time moves faster for that student. And you see that if you look at two semesters out, 4 semesters out, both Gen Ed core completers and non-completers are still in school. They're still in the data set. They haven't graduated. But then you begin to see separation between the two groups as you get on out to 5, 6, and then 10 semesters. The completers are graduating at a faster clip. Then lastly, we also saw statistically significant increases in college GPA at the time of graduating for college for Gen Ed core completers, about a 3 points on a 0.3 on a 4-point grading scale for those that had completed the entire core. So when you get down to the end of it, the impact on policy is that this policy is serving its purpose very well. We saw statistically significant effects on almost all the outcomes, and then as you saw, there were impacts even for completing certain clusters within the Gen Ed core, even if you can't do all of the core prior to transferring. For students, the message is complete the Gen Ed core early, and if you can't do that, focus on those large effect clusters, which I believe were communication and was it history was the second one, and then math was the third one. And then for colleges, Russ may not want me to say this out loud, but I think that there's a message in here that we might want to replace the progress metric at some point, or look at it, because rather than just rewarding institutions for students who complete 24, 48, and 72 credits, why not look at completion of these clusters that really make a difference in degree completion? So it's something for his group to consider next year when they come back together. So that is the articulation transfer report. This report and the PowerPoint are on our legislative reports section of our website, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Any questions from the commission? Okay.
All right. Oops, excuse me. Thank you very much.
David, thank you. Next, we have College Access Challenge Grant, Latino Student Success Grant status report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Rhoda, members of the Commission. I will be brief. Just to kind of give you an update on some of the initiatives of the Office of P16 initiatives. We have several activities that have commenced since the last Commission meeting. We have new team members that will officially join our team on Monday, 2 regional coordinators, one in the East, one in the West, Dwayne Gregg and Shayla Guy. Since we last met, the Commission has received a grant, Tennessee has received a grant from the U.S. Department of Ed. We mentioned this in the last Commission meeting that we submitted an application. It's a College Access Challenge Grant in the amount of $2.8 million. The award period is 2012 to 2013, so that is new news. The Latino Student Success Initiative. You'll recall this is a Lumina-funded program focused on Latino student success in the Memphis community. Since we last met and last reported, we've made subgrants to Latino Memphis and to Leadership Memphis to begin implementation of this program. And then finally, the Tennessee College Access and Success Network recently, this last month, held a sold-out conference in Franklin, the Tennessee College Access and Success Conference. Many of those in attendance were presenters, and we appreciate that. There was a white paper that was a work product of that conference that is available on the network's website, and you can see a link to that there. During the same week of the conference, last week in October, we held a statewide college application week. We had representation across 79 counties, representing 260 sites for middle schools, high schools, nonprofit organizations. This is a significant increase from last year, 70 additional sites. You'll see a map there. The activities were varied across state, everything from a Friday night college application week tailgate at a football game to door decorating competition. This is from Bradley County. We had great success with this initiative. We are processing the survey results from that, and by the next Commission meeting, we'll be able to present to you just some of the feedback we received, the number of applications, the number of students who participated, but on the whole, all indications point to a really positive event. What I would like to zero in on, just in my remarks, is Gear Up TN. We announced at the last commission meeting that Tennessee received a $29.5 million grant focused strategically on increasing the number of low-income students who are not only transitioning but succeeding in higher education. The model that we are adopting, we are subgrading out to local Gear Up collaboratives. The collaboratives consist of at least one high school, a middle school, a higher ed institution, and at least 2 nonprofit organizations. We have selected these through a competitive bid process. We will be serving 2 different populations. A cohort of students, they're 7th grade students, that we will follow all the way through their middle school and high school years into their first year of post-secondary ed. And then in addition to, we will provide services to seniors every year of the grant. All totaled, across the next 7 years, we will provide services to over 37,000 students across the state. And so the potential for increased college going is it's significant. The Gear Up goals really do center around making sure that our students that we work with are academically prepared to succeed in high school and go to post-secondary ed, that we're increasing the rates of high school graduation and college going across the state, and that we're also increasing what our communities that we're working in, their knowledge of what it takes to go to college. How do I finance it? What are the steps? We want to change the communities in which we will be working. These are the objectives that kind of flesh out these 3 goals. I won't go through each of these items, but I will just wanted to give you an update of where we are in implementation. We released a call for proposals in June. Those came back to our office in August. Our readers reviewed those proposals and made recommendations to the staff in regards to where our collaborative sites will be located throughout the state. We made those selections in September and announced them publicly late September, early October. Just so you know where we're headed, each of our 16 sites, and I'll give you a preview of kind of where those are across the state. They are going through a work plan development process now where they're kind of planning out what this first grant year looks like in more detail. They will officially begin implementation of the grant on January 1. This is just kind of a synopsis of some of the press coverage that we received when we did launch it officially. Here's where our sites are across the state. You'll see that we do have a nice mix of urban and rural, and they are spread throughout the state. The sites, and I won't read through each of these, but I just want to give you a sense of the different sites and the award amounts that they will be receiving in total over the next 7 years. But I also want to highlight just the range of higher education partners. We have in the TBR system 14 institutions that are partnering with the Gear Up program in some way, shape, or form. We have 3 UT entities and 2 TACUA institutions. And I will say that these are the partnerships that were built into the initial proposals. One of the things that we are doing over the next 7 years is to build capacities in these communities to reach out to higher ed partners to increase the depth and breadth of these partnerships over time. So this is the first group. Here's the second. We have 16 total across the state. I did want to give you a sense of just the need in these schools that we will be working with. You'll notice that our Gear Up schools do have approximately 70% free and reduced lunch populations. That's compared to 55.7 in Tennessee and 42.9 across the country. College going rates, our systems also struggle with this, that we have a college going rate of approximately 7% below the state average. And then ACT scores. On average, the ACT scores in direct service schools are 2 points below the state average and well below the United States average as well. So to not end on a negative note, let me say with great need and great opportunity, there is an opportunity for us to really do some fantastic work over the next 7.5 or 6.5 years. So in terms of the services that we will be offering students, there is just really a gamut of student services. You see them listed here. We are providing some structure for our sites in terms of the minimum requirements of what these types of interventions look like, while also allowing some flexibility for school systems to tailor these interventions to meet the specific needs of these communities. And this is where we really will partner with those nonprofit organizations, those higher ed institutions, to pour resources into these schools so that the money that we are investing in these communities isn't, the impact is not limited to the grant, that we're really building a structure for sustainability that is over the long term. family services. This is where we will do workshops, things like financial aid counseling, and then we will have a significant professional development component of this around Common Core and making sure that our educators that are working with our students really do know the ins and out of college access. I have a video from the governor. Would you like me? We've mailed this out, and so we won't play it in the interest of time. But I would like to open up. That's kind of my brief report. Any questions that I can answer?
Question from our group? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Well, again, this is, we all kind of rally around Gear Up. Troy and his staff is so meaningful. It's a good report.
Effective teacher training programs.
Hi. Good afternoon, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Rhoda, and Commission members. We spoke this morning about the 2012 effectiveness of teacher preparation programs, their report card. This is the 5th year that we've completed the report card. It is required by state statute to look at 3 different areas: placement and retention of new teachers, their praxis passenger rates, as well as their effect scores as provided by TVAS. All of this information is online on our website, the THEC website, where you can get additional information about all of the individual programs, the executive summary, what the state as a whole looks like as far as the new over 5,000 teachers that have completed programs this year. We're also doing some things around building resources for continuous improvement. We're working with the institutions to work on Common Core training, modules to help pre-service teachers understand TVAS and increase data literacy. We're also going to be doing some individual reports for institutions so that they can get a more robust look at the data down to the program level and course of study to make things as user-friendly and effective for change as possible.
Any questions? Thank you. And next will be our race to the top update. Ms. Miller.
Just save that. We combine them.
Okay. We combine 2?
Yeah.
We didn't mind that. Dr. Rhoda, next we will have from you the schedule of our upcoming meeting.
Right. This is the last item, and it's included in your meeting materials. The listing, it's the same cycle. Basically, they're all Thursdays, the same week of the month of our that we've established over the years. We use this as the planning purposes. If there's any need to change, we'll obviously consult with members of the committee to do that. Gary.
We probably will have to collaborate a little bit on the January joint meeting because I think we set our date at the week later.
Okay.
But we'll see which way.
This is the joint meeting that we have, and I should have checked with you here. Those, well, one other announcement before you wrap up. There is going to be a meeting of the THEC Audit Committee December 3rd at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and members of THEC, Sharon and Robert White are on that committee, and that goes right into then a called meeting of the THEC board. I just wanted to make the commission aware of that, and that also the commission has been notified we will be participating in a sunset review, as will TSAC, and we'll have the entrance interview pretty soon. We'll keep you posted on that.
Let me thank all of you for taking time and hanging in here with us. And also let me wish all of you a happy holiday season. It's hard to believe that that's next week. But since we won't have a meeting, and since I can't ask for a motion for adjournment, I'll just do it. You are adjourned. Thank you, dear. Thank you. All right. I still got everybody up at